What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the 2006 mixtape by Block ENT, which is basically Boys in the Hood and Young Jock's music label. Basically, this project is called Welcome to My Hood, and it came out in the spring of 2006. The thing about this particular project is I didn't really know about this project. The thing about this particular project is I didn't know that this project existed that much. I do remember a particular song by Young Jock called "A Couple Grand" off this particular album, but I didn't really remember the rest of it. I'd have to say it's a pretty interesting one just because it's not readily kind of available. I'm not sure if it was on DatPiff back in the day when that website was still around, but I'd have to say I was able to find it. It is kind of on like some mixtape websites if you want to look for it. As far as I kind of have, this is just kind of the pitch that's just very low key. There's definitely not a wiki article about this, and very few things seem to know of its existence overall, I'd have to say. So it's just not something that's routinely, this is just not a project that's routinely kind of talked about, I'd have to say. So it's not a full-blown disappointment, but I'd have to say it's just here and there over the fact that this is just not something that's commonly known about in this overall kind of scene. I'd have to say it's definitely some pitch kind of swag rap from the year. It's definitely some pitch kind of swag rap from the 2000s. So if you miss like 2006, 2007, 2008 kind of ringtone and swag rap and that type of stuff, as far as that kind of happens to some of that standard 2000s trap music, this is definitely a good shot in the arm for some of that particular type bold as far as that pitch kind of happens. Has Young Jock on here a bunch of times. He's definitely in his prime around this particular time as he was getting ready to drop New Jock City. Boys in the Hood have some spare cuts on here, and even the solo members kind of do some stuff as far as that kind of happens. You get some Big Gee songs, some Big Duke songs, and some Jody Breeze songs as far as that kind of happens. Some good pitches to kind of get. Rick Ross has a freestyle on here. The Ying Yang Twins show up on a song with Young Jock. There's just some good amalgamations of things that kind of happen. I really like the collective kind of celebratory kind of party that this mixtape kind of had. It's just interesting that the Block ENT label, it's just interesting that the Block ENT label did this sort of stuff in the spring of 2006, because for the most part, I don't even remember like the particular commotion about this mixtape as far as that kind of went. It's definitely a good surprise as far as that kind of happens. I just would have to say it's a good kind of pitch overall to kind of get, and it's definitely some pretty thrilling 2000s rap, I'd have to say. It's just kind of the concept. I mean, there's some exclusives on here. There's some songs that are kind of recycled, but there's also some songs like Patron from Young Jock is on this particular album under a different name. It's called I'm So Fly on this particular project, but it has some different verses on there, different from the Patron on Young Jock's New Jock City. So that's pretty dope to kind of get that. Short Dog from Young Money's crew is on this particular song with Young Jock, so it's a pretty dope concept to kind of get some of that stuff. But we'll go ahead and start talking about some of these. I just would have to say this is a pretty surprise hit mixtape. Definitely like the affability and flavor of this particular project. Definitely like the affability and flavor of this particular project. Just did some real good things right as far as that kind of pitch kind of went. It's kind of a little bit tricky to kind of find, but I definitely would recommend it. So I just would continue checking in with Acid Roots, my particular YouTube channel, because it's going to have projects like this that are kind of more secret and hard to find as far as that kind of happens. So it's definitely some good stuff here. But we'll go ahead and talk about the songs I recommend just to get towards that. So there's 16 songs on this particular project. There's actually 21 songs on this mixtape, but out of those, there's actually 21 songs on this particular mixtape, but out of those 21, 5 of them are interludes and skits as far as that kind of happens. So some stuff there, but basically there's 16 songs. Out of those 16, I wound up recommending to you 8 plus 5 almost songs. So I'd have to say it's a good concept to kind of get that. We'll go ahead and recommend these 13 songs, I'd have to say, and then we'll go ahead and talk about them. So 13 songs I recommend would be I'm So Fly, Ride With Them Things, A Couple Grand, Jockin', Shoulder Squeeze, This Is What I Do, Goddamn, Small Things to a Giant. And then the 5 almost songs would be That Smell, Superstar, 24 Hours, Run, and then Do You Bad, which is another song by Young Jock. So basically Do You Bad is just a song that's the exact same on Young Jock's New Jock City. So I'm not going to really talk about that one, but it is an almost song because it is a good song, but it's just one that you can find elsewhere. So I just recommend it on there. But it's the one almost song that's just to be found elsewhere apart from Patron, which is I'm So Fly. I'll go ahead and talk about I'm So Fly. So this is a pretty fly one. Definitely appreciate this particular song. This is like a boppish kind of drinks up anthem, I'd have to say. It's got some new Patron verses on there. Short Dog from Young Money's on there. I would say it's just a good pitch to kind of have that. This is just different from the album version on New Jock City. I definitely have to say it's just an overall pretty fly song. So I'd have to say I definitely like the concept of Patron. It's just a definite fly song. So I definitely like the concept of Patron. It's pretty hit song. Definitely should have been the third single off of New Jock. Should have been the third single off of New Jock City. I definitely feel like just an overall good hit. Just a great drinking song, great song to get crunk to and stuff like that. Young Jock has a new verse on the third verse, and Short Dog's on there, which originally the song didn't have guest verses, so it's a good concept to kind of get that. Ride With Them Things is a pretty nice song. This has Lil Wayne on here, so this is a Boys in the Hood song that has Lil Wayne, which is pretty awesome because Lil Wayne really didn't team up with Boys in the Hood before. So it's a pretty good pitch to kind of get that. So this song is basically like a fire kind of Lil Wayne verse on here. I definitely have to say he did a real excellent job. Boys in the Hood did pretty good also. This is a great Southern Fried kind of Boys in the Hood hit. Definitely, it's just a murky and gutter kind of song, I'd have to say. So this one just really feels woozy, to something like a ghetto kind of after hours, just 4 o'clock, 5 p.m., something like that. Just got done with work, just in a more greasy kind of sense. Just definitely like the concept of like the evening kind of haze, just 4:35 p.m., something like that. Just smoking swishers, just some stuff like that. Just in a real kind of low key kind of after hours kind of sense. Real good pitch, real good Lil Wayne verse, real good Boys in the Hood type song to kind of get. This is definitely something I like, these kind of Boys in the Hood songs, just because I know most of the stuff that they've done. So these are some extra kind of secret songs to kind of get. And Lil Wayne does drop an original verse on here, so it's a good concept to kind of see this just kind of being like a secret song by them. A Couple Grand is a song I'm familiar with by Young Jock. I remember this song from back in the day. This is definitely a pretty nice one. This is actually a D4L song, so this is a song called I'm the Man off their 2005 album, if you didn't know that. So it's a good pitch to kind of get that. But this is basically like a low-key kind of woozy Young Jock bop, I'd have to say. Definitely like the concept of it. It's a new spin on the D4 hit. It's a new spin on like the D4L hit, like I was saying. It's just a rugged, and the song is just a rugged kind of swag rap cut, I would definitely feel like. So Young Jock puts like a swag spin on this particular song. Shawty Lo did a pretty good job with it. I think Shawty Lo was on the original song I'm the Man, I'd have to say. It was just a good pitch to kind of get, just a real rugged type one. This Young Jock has some swaggish type lyrics on here, just that work pretty damn well, I'd have to say. And then there's kind of like a combination song, at least on the mixtape that I downloaded. There's a song called Run, which is like 8 minutes long, which is half of the song Run by Boys in the Hood, and the other half of the song is Jockin'. So it's kind of the concept. It was kind of like a blend of a song, but basically they're two separate songs. I'm going to talk about them separately, but the concept of it is Jockin' is a song I recommend, and Run is an almost song for me. So Jockin' is basically like a bugged out. Jockin' by Young Jock is basically like a bugged out kind of stoned hit from Jock, I'd have to say. Definitely like the pitch of this particular one. It's just a flittery and kind of sleepy kind of song. This one's just kind of a flittery and sleepy kind of song, I definitely would have to say. And it's just a dope Primera Young Jock type vibes that this song particularly kind of has. So this is just one. Young Jock was just on a real high in 2006. Just everything he did kind of had the Midas touch around that time. It felt like everything that Young Jock did in 2006 just kind of had the Midas touch and stuff. Just a real kind of prime era for him as far as that would kind of go and such. I just would have to definitely suppose it's just some good era type songs to kind of get from him. This is just another one. It's just kind of a different kind of vibe from Young Jockin' is just kind of a different vibe from Young Jock than what I was expecting. And this one's just kind of a sleepy type one that just works pretty well. It's just a very druggy and drowsy type one, but I like the overall concept of it. It's just a real great song to kind of get stoned to and have some swishers in a high abundance, I'd have to say. So I definitely recommend that one. Shoulder Squeeze is a pretty good highlight. This is like a shoulder lean. Shoulder Squeeze is a pretty good highlight. This is like a shoulder lean freestyle, and Boys in the Hood do a stellar job with this particular freestyle as far as I can have. It's just Boys in the Hood, Big Gee, and Jody Breeze doing like the shoulder lean freestyles as far as I can have. It's just a nice glimmering kind of remix, I'd have to say, and just an overall pretty hit one. So yeah, that's one of the few mixtape songs on here, just like Lil Wayne vintage type stuff as far as I can have. So it's a good pitch to kind of get. I guess Young Jock kind of did that also with a couple Grandmas. Just some good concepts to kind of get some of those. Young Jocks was more of a song than more so than a freestyle, but still a good pitch to kind of get it. This is What I Do is another nice highlight. This is a Rick Ross freestyle, I'd have to say, and this is like a nice 2006 spare freestyle from Rick Ross. Definitely like the concept of getting this particular one, and this is just some dope kind of Port of Miami vibes from Rick Ross. So this is before he put out Port of Miami. This is back in like the MIAO days, Chevy Riding High days, stuff like that, Hustling days, and Push It to the Limit type days. Some of those particular hits from Rick Ross. So it's a good pitch. He's actually Rick Ross was a pretty stellar lyricist. Rick Ross was a pretty stellar lyricist back in 2006. So it's a good pitch. He's teamed up with Boys in the Hood in the past. He was on their 2005 album. He does some good stuff with that. So he has some stellar lyrics. Just works pretty damn well. This is a good example of that. He had a pretty good rap verse on This Is What I Do. So I like the concept of that particular one. Goddamn's a pretty nice one. This is a Young Young Jock song with Yin Yang Twins, which is another kind of secret team up. I didn't realize that Young Jock and Yin Yang Twins did a song, so that's pretty dope to kind of get that. This is an awesome team up with the Yin Yang Twins and Jock, like I was saying, definite surprise hit, and it's just great for some litty kind of nights out and strip club type vibes. It's just great for some litty nights out and strip club type vibes as far as that kind of pitch would kind of happen. Just real nice one, just kind of belly type beat. This pretty frenetic, just kind of a standard pretty good twerk song just for 2000s era as far as that kind of happens. Just a nice bop to kind of get some ladies dancing just within that pitch as far as that would kind of happen. Just a real nice one to kind of have just within like a night out kind of pitch, just in like some vintage kind of 2000s era vibes, I'd have to say. So it's just a nice highlight. This definitely feels like a leftover cut from Young Jock, but it works pretty well. This is exact songs like this is exactly why I wanted to fuck with this project, just to see some secret kind of vibes from Boys in the Hood and Young Jock and folks like that as far as that pitch kind of happens, because this project is just filled with songs like that, I'd have to say. So it's a good concept. Small Things to a Giant's a pretty nice one. This is by Big Gee, which he doesn't have a ton of new songs on here, but it's just kind of the concept. This is a pretty nice one. This is like a Fly Jeezy cameo. Jeezy does the hook on here. It's a good team up with Big Gee and Jeezy as far as that kind of happens. Big Gee has like a thundering kind of trap hit, I'd have to say, and it just gives like some 2000s vibes overall, I definitely feel like. So this is one, reminds me of something that Gorilla Zoe would do in like 2007, just a lot more kind of like afterthought of such a thing, I'd have to suppose. It's kind of more of like a here and there type song, but it works pretty well. It's kind of thundering, just has real good kind of heaviness towards it that just works pretty well. It's just a nice kind of standard trap type cut that you would get from like Jeezy on like the Trap Star type fields or something like that, kind of in between like Jeezy and Gorilla Zoe, something to that pitch. It's interesting kind of see those songs from Big E, because I wonder if he has like projects of his own that I have to check out, so we'll have to see about that. With some good stuff here, like the Jeezy hook, definitely. And then to talk about the Almost songs, like That Smell is a pretty nice one. This is Young Jock and Blackjack, definitely like the concept of this one. I think this song is the clean version just because Blackjack, I think, released this as a single, so I think Blackjack was trying to put out like an album or a song, something like that. That's kind of what happens with mixtapes. So it's when there's a song that's on a mixtape that's also on an album, they'll just put the clean version on there. But that's the reason why this song is an Almost song. Basically, it's a dope kind of Smoke a Few cut. Young Jock does real well on this particular song. Blackjack does pretty good also. This is a nice gleaming kind of club hit, but it's just too bad that it's the clean version, I'd have to say. I really like this song. If this song had been the normal version, I definitely would have recommended it full blown. It's just kind of the concept about it. Real nice kind of litty, kind of glimmering type beat that just works pretty damn well. Just a real kind of highlighted one. It's great for just like being in VIP or just hanging out in a nightclub, something like that, just in standard 2000s fare as far as that pitch kind of happens. And then Superstars and Almost song. This is kind of a combination between Boys in the Hood and Dipset, which it has Max B and Jim Jones on here. I didn't know Max B was Dipset, but I think it's kind of the concept. He basically was pretty highly affiliated with Dipset, so it's a good concept. You basically get Big Gee and Big Duke, and then you get Jim Jones and Max B on this particular song. It's an Almost song though, just because the beat is kind of a song I'm on the fence about. But basically, this song is like a vintage kind of Don Cannon like. Superstar is basically like a vintage kind of Don Cannon like 2000s East Coast kind of vibe that it particularly kind of has. It's a good collabo, definitely. I feel like the four rappers on this song do pretty well on here, but the beat is just not a KO for me, I'd have to say. It's just not a full blown knockout. I kind of like it. It's kind of somewhat good, but I've heard better kind of Don Cannon East Coast type sample beats as far as that kind of happens. I think Jeezy, Cameron, some of those folks just did it a little bit better. I mean, it's a nice one. It's just typical kind of mixtape fare, just something that you've heard from Lil Wayne, Cameron, some of those type folks, but it just probably is like a 6.5, something like that, 7 out of 10 in terms of full blown quality. I can recommend it, but it's just not a full blown recommendation. It's just kind of one I would listen to it here and there, but maybe not every single time, I'd have to say. But I did like the fact that Jim Jones and Max B were on this song. It's pretty dope to kind of get that. And then 24 Hours is by Jody Breeze. This is basically like a bustling kind of warm weather city hopping type tune, I'd have to say. This is basically like a bustling kind of warm weather city hopping type tune, I'd have to say. It's a very offhanded production, and it's kind of a suave beat, but it's just kind of, it's suave, but it's also a trap song, I'd have to say. And it's not to say that trap isn't suave, but it's just kind of the concept that it feels sophisticated, something you'd listen to in like a steamy hotel, something like that. It's really kind of glistening with like the waterfalls, stuff like that. It's real fancy and pizzazz like, but it's also kind of like a trap type song just by the lyrics and stuff like that. Just the more kind of rugged type feel of it. It's just kind of an interesting little bop to kind of get as far as that kind of pitch kind of has. But it's a nice one. I mean, I kind of was interested. Jody Breeze, I know, has some projects out, so I'm gonna have to mess with some of those to see what he was kind of up to around this time. It was a good pitch to kind of get. It's just kind of one. Once again, it's kind of one that I'm kind of on the fence about. I mean, the offhanded production is good, but it's just kind of the concept is just here and there as far as the compellingness that I got from it as far as that kind of went, but it is decent. But it is decent. And then Run is another almost song. This is a Boys in the Hood type hit, I would have to say. This is a stock kind of Boys in the Hood hit, I would definitely have to suppose. It's just a vanilla kind of 2000s trap of a song. It's just a vanilla kind of 2000s trap song, I would definitely have to say. It's good, but it isn't like a super vivid kind of highlight. So I feel like I was saying, the song Run is good, but it's just not a super vivid kind of highlight. So I just would have to say it's a decent little song. I definitely would suppose it's just kind of stock, kind of similar to like the Boys in the Hood 2005 album, where I feel like they have some good songs, but they kind of run out of steam a little bit quicker than they need to. It's kind of the same thing that happened with their 2005 album. Although their 2007 album was definitely an improvement, that one was like a sheer highlight and pretty damn near a classic album. I'd have to say this particular project just kind of had some spare kind of cuts. I mean, they're here and there. They were definitely inspired on the Lil Wayne song Ride With Them Things. They have a couple other hits on here. Run is kind of a decent one, but it's just kind of the concept that Superstar was kind of an almost song also. But it's just kind of the concept that sometimes these songs kind of feel like stock kind of trap cuts from like the 2000s as far as that pitch kind of happens. It's just kind of here and there. I mean, it's just like I was saying, this happened on like their 2005 album. Just kind of the concept that some of these, just when the energy is not more frenetic and kind of more jivey and just and stuff like that, when it's not more crazed and just in a more manic and kind of commercial type sense. Some of these spare album cuts that are just kind of like stock, kind of fill out the album type things, just kind of feel more kind of just relative and basic and just don't really jump off the page in like a full blown kind of asset, I'd have to say. It was just kind of the concept, but it's not to say it's bad, it's just kind of run of the mill, this kind of thing. But so that's basically the mixtape, I'd have to say. So me recommending basically 8 songs out of 16 on here, plus 5 almost songs. I'm going to go ahead and give this mixtape like a 7.5 out of 10. I feel like that's pretty good. There's just a lot of secret batch of songs on here that there's just a secret batch of songs on here that I'd have to highly recommend, and just would have to overall kind of say that these are just very secret, and it just doesn't feel like a ton of folks really know about them or even really can remember that these songs really came out. It's just not something that's in everyday conversation, especially 17, 18 years later nowadays, I'd have to suppose. So it's just kind of the concept. This is very much a secret and kind of esoteric kind of project that just needs more publicity and things like that. And just overall, I mean, there's just not many folks that realize that Block ENT, Young Jock, and Boys in the Hood's label actually dropped Gangsta Grillz mixtapes with DJ Drama and that type of stuff, that just were official mixtapes that they paid the price of DJ Drama to get these, and just that sort of pitch, just to have some new stuff and that sort of thing. It was just an interesting concept. It's a secret little project. Definitely did some good stuff on here. The social score, I'm going to go ahead and give an 8.25 out of 10, because I feel like there's a number of songs on here that just have like a good social light and just overall pitch as far as I can have some good stuff. A Lil Wayne verse on here. Young Jock's really on fire on this particular project. Boys in the Hood do deliver in most cases. The solo members do here and there some good moments. This would have to say, talk about some of the songs I don't recommend though, just kind of the pitch behind it. There's really only 3 songs. Like, I kind of felt like the Big Duke songs were just not that well put together. It was just kind of the concept that some of these were just more ride out type tunes that just didn't work that well. I kind of felt like If You a Gangsta and then Come Around were just kind of more trap centric type ones that just were really meant for like really stepping out and getting rowdy as far as it kind of went, but they just didn't carry the energy in like a compelling light. And then Renegade was just kind of like a spare cat that I didn't really know much about, and he just didn't really have a compelling type vibe to really push for, but it's just kind of the concept. So that's just the thing. 8.25 social. A lot of good compelling vibes on here, a lot of affability, like I was saying, just a lot of good marketing towards 2000s trap and ringtone and snap era type stuff that pulls it off pretty well. And it's just a lot of good concepts for like some strip clubs, nightclubs, just festivities, ride out music, summer music, stuff like that. Just a good overall trap push if you like 2006, 2008, 2007 type stuff as far as that kind of goes. In terms of the future, that's kind of difficult. I don't know what happened to Block ENT, the label, as far as that kind of happens. I know that they're underneath the Bad Boy label, so that's kind of thing. They're a subsidiary of that, but I don't know what Puff Daddy has done with it and those sorts of things. But I know that they have a number of other mixtapes. There's at least one called like American Gangsta or something like that that came out in 2007. So we'll have to see some more of these just to get like some more Boys in the Hood secret songs and Gorilla Zoe songs and stuff like that, and the other members, Big Gee, Big Duke, Jody Breeze, some of them, just to see the pitches as to how that kind of happens. But this is definitely a pretty secret and dope project here that I'd have to highly recommend for 2000s era rap fans.